Thank you, devotees, for joining. We just did the Mangala Charan, and we are going to be reading from Nectar of Instruction, 6th. दृष्टे स्वभावजनितैर्विपुषश्च दोषैर्
दृष्टे स्वभावजनितैर्वपुषश्च दोषैर्
नाप्राकृतत्वमिह भक्तजनस्य पाश्येत्
नाप्राकृतत्वमिह भक्तजनस्य
गङ्गाम्भसां न खलु बुद्बुदफेन पङ्कैर्
खलु बुद्बुदफेन
ब्रह्मा द्रवत्वम् अपगच्छति नीरधर्मे Okay, who would like to volunteer for reading the translation?
मुझे अनिका रीड करेंगे.
Yes, go ahead.
Being situated in his original form, Krishna conscious. In his original Krishna conscious position, a pure devotee does not identify with the body. Such a devotee should not be seen from materialistic point of view. Indeed, one should overlook a devotee having a body born in a low family, a body with a bad complex, a deformed body, or a diseased or infirm body. According to ordinary vision, such imperfection may seem prominent in the body of a pure devotee, but despite such seeming defects, the body of a pure devotee cannot be polluted. It is like the waters of Ganges, which sometimes during the rainy seasons are full of bubbles, foam, and mud. The Ganges waters do not become
Hare Krishna. Am I audible?
Yes, Prabhuji, now you are.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you so much for reading, Anika. Great job. Had some big words. All right. So this is very interesting and nice shloka. We'll discuss about it, but we'll start by the purport. Who would like to read the purport next? Anybody would like to volunteer?
Prabhuji, I can read.
Yes, Mataji, go ahead.
Shuddha Bhakti, the activity of the soul proper, in other words, engagement in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, is performed in a liberated condition. In Bhagavad Gita 14.26, it is stated, Mamachayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down in any circumstance, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. Avyabhicharini bhakti means unalloyed devotion. A person engaged in devotional service must be free from material motives. In this Krishna consciousness movement, one's consciousness must be changed. If consciousness is aimed towards material enjoyment, it is material consciousness. And if it is aimed towards serving Krishna, it is Krishna consciousness. A surrendered soul serves Krishna without material considerations. Anyabhilashita shunyam. Gyan karmadi anavritam. Unalloyed devotional service, which is transcendental to the activities of the body and mind, such as gyan, mental speculation, and karma, fruitive work, is called pure bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga is the proper activity of the soul. And when one actually engages in unalloyed, uncontaminated devotional service, he is already liberated. Sagunan samatitetan. Krishna devotee is not subjected to material conditions, even though his bodily features may appear materially conditioned. One should therefore not see a pure devotee from a materialistic point of view. Unless one is actually a devotee, he cannot see another devotee perfectly. As explained in the previous verse, there are three types of devotees: Kanishtadhikari, Madhyamadhikari, and Uttamadhikari. The Kanishtadhikari cannot distinguish between a devotee and non devotee. He is simply concerned with worshipping the deity in the temple. A Madhyamadhikari, however, can distinguish between the devotee and non devotee, as well as between the devotee and the Lord. Thus, he treats the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the devotee, and the non devotee in different ways. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So should we discuss or should we read a little bit more? So we can probably discuss. Mataji, you want to share? Natasha Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji. So, first thing Prabhupada is describing is what is pure bhakti or unalloyed or Shuddha Bhakti. And he says, he's quoted this very important verse, Anya Bilashita Shunyam. So basically, there is Shuddha Bhakti means when devotee does not have any other material desires. So he's not um, into fruitive work or mental speculation, and is just towards faithfully serving Krishna with pure love and devotion, then that is pure or Shuddh Bhakti. And so such a devotee is above any kind of material consideration. So that is the import of this shloka, that we should not look at a devotee on a materialistic level, like what they look like, what is their color or caste or nationality, or even religion. Um, all of a pure devotee who's practicing such kind of pure devotional services beyond these materialistic considerations. So then he describes that how only a madhyam adhikari or uttam adhikari can have that qualification to distinguish between a devotee, a non-devotee, or a devotee and the Lord, and um, they are uttam adhikari is the one that's above and beyond these um, who can see the devotee as such, um, above and beyond the material considerations. Kanishta Adhikari is not on such a platform. So basically pure bhakti yoga is described, and one has to try to come to that level.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else would like to add anything from what we just read?
Prabhuji, question.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if you guys might have discussed this earlier also, but uh, there is a line in here, Gyan Karmadi Anavritam, unallowed devotion service, which is transcendental to the activities of body and mind, such as Gyan and Karma, is pure Bhakti Yoga. Can you explain that, please?
Yes, thank you, Mataji. Good question. So, Natasha Mataji, can you please explain this shloka?
Yes, Prabhuji. So this shloka, Mataji, the whole Anyabhilashita shunyam gyan karmadi anavritam anukulena krishnanu shilanam bhaktiruttama. So this is the whole shloka which Prabhupada is quoting, the first two lines. So Anyabhilashita shunyam, I think we understand is no other desires. And what are those other desires? Is those of gyan and karma. So gyan basically means mental speculation. So the pure devotee is not engaging his mind and intelligence in just so a lot of people will approach God or scriptures just for their mental satisfaction, um, uh, just for the purpose of learning the philosophy, engaging in these debates and arguments about the various kinds of religious philosophies and whatnot. So they're not, so a pure devotee is above this kind of mental speculations. So that is basically the level of a Gyan yogi.
Yeah,
Uh,
and just Mataji, one thing to add to that. So, and also like what Mataji is mentioning, they like to read the scriptures and come to different meanings, different conclusion, and they take pleasure in that, in getting some mind jugglery. Mental speculating, ऐसे होता होगा, that ऐसे होता होगा, वैसे होता होगा. So like that they try to do a lot of twisting and turning without understanding the essence. So that is Gyan platform. And the goal and the center is not um, to come close to Krishna. Mataji, please continue. I just want to, you know, um, add this about the Gyan Yogis.
But Gyan Yoga also kind of connects to Krishna only in that what Bhagavad Gita says. So.
It should connect, but it doesn't always connect, because the Gyan Yogis, they get distracted easily into other things because the center is not Krishna. Similarly, the Karma Yoga is also same. The karma, if that distracts the person and it does not lead to yoga, then that can be distraction in your journey. So all these are meant to actually go forward. Like for example, if you see the four Kumaras, or if you see Sukadev Goswami, they were actually very advanced spiritually, but they were not devotees. But they were advanced, like very perfect state of Gyani, you can say in one way. But actually, when they came in touch with in different ways the glories of the Lord, like Sukadeva Goswami heard Srimad Bhagavatam, and the four Kumaras, they smell the aroma of the tulsi which is offered to Krishna. Like the different ways they completely got attracted and transformed and became devotees. So in the perfect way, it should happen, and then it will be free from Gyan and Karma. Gyan and Karma will not be the center. Krishna will be the center. That is the perfection of bhakti, that it is not mixed with Gyan and Karma. Karma actually here, it's more of Karma Kanda, but also it will include Karma Yoga, where Karma is primarily the center and not the yoga aspect. But the actual goal is to come to pure devotional service, which is basically this shloka is the definition, paryayavachi shloka, for what it is. Natasha Mataji, please continue.
yes, Prabhuji. So and then karma, like you said, it could be karm kand or fruitive work. Both of those, Krishna is not the center. um, so you know how with Bhagavad Gita people say, oh, karm kar phal ki chinta mat kar, that is the sar of Bhagavad Gita, so we know that and that's enough. We don't need to read Bhagavad Gita because we know the sar, ki karm kar phal ki chinta mat kar. But that's not the sar of Bhagavad Gita. Karma, people take karma yoga as ki, okay, we will do our duties perfectly, and if we do our duties perfectly, then that is what Krishna wants. He just wants us to keep doing our work, wherever we are, whatever work we are engaged in, that is a prescribed duty, and we should do that perfectly, honestly, and that is considered karma. But ultimately, they use those karmas for their sense gratification. So it is ultimately used for means for enhancing themselves in life, or for their families, or for improving your own status and in the community, or for sense gratification, basically. So that kind of karma does not keep Krishna in center at all. So that is the kind of karma, I think, fruitive work, or karma kanda, which is just ritualistic ceremonies without the keeping Krishna as the highest principle, is the karma mentioned here. And pure bhakti does not care for either of those. A pure devotee keeps Krishna in the center. So um, even if they are after gyan, they are using scriptures to reach Krishna. Even if they are doing their work, they are dovetailing all their work towards Krishna. So, like the next half of that shloka says, Anukulena Krishnanu. So, all their activities are anukul in reaching towards Krishna. They are all dovetailed towards reaching Krishna, and they don't do anything that will take them away from Krishna. So, if the karma is such that it will take them away from Krishna, then they will avoid that. Or if gyan meant the useless arguments, useless debates that have no bearing in their highest principle of reaching Krishna, the highest goal of Krishna prema, then they will not engage in those kind of activities. So pure devotee will use all his resources, his mind, body, intelligence, his words, everything to just reach towards Krishna. And that's what I understood from this, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. I was reading the actual meaning, the translation of this one, and then what I got was I will just read it out loud. When first class devotional service develops, one must be devoid of all material desires, knowledge obtained by monoistic philosophy, and fruitive actions. The devotee must constantly serve Krishna favorably as Krishna desires. So, most of it, everything what you have said, I agree with everything, except that knowledge obtained by monoistic philosophy does not say Gyan Yoga. This is not Gyan Yoga. This is just earning knowledge, like we are reading, and that is what is supposed to be. So Gyan Yoga is totally different. When we are saying Karam Yoga and Gyan Yoga, we are including these things in this shloka, but actually shloka doesn't include Gyan Yoga and Karam Yoga. So when we are saying Karam Yoga and when we are using Yoga word, that means connecting to Krishna. Isn't it, Prabhuji?
So Mataji, you're right. But as I was mentioning, that Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, there's a yoga ladder which is in succession, and it should actually translate into Krishna being the center. If Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga are all understood to be different aspects of the same yoga ladder, and subsequently it is leading to Krishna consciousness, then that is perfection. But that doesn't necessarily happen. For example, just like if a person is in 5th grade and he's studying mathematics, somebody is in 10th grade, he's studying mathematics, and then 12th grade, he's studying mathematics, right? So then one can say that the 5th grade mathematics is going to eventually give him an understanding to come to 10th grade mathematics, and like that into the 12th grade mathematics. But what if the 5th grader, he drops out, or 5th grader doesn't understand that what is the idea here to graduate? So the point is that when they stick to only the Gyan section, even in Jnana Yoga is not perfection. Jnana Yoga is a process. That somebody is practicing Jnana Yoga means he has to advance further. But if you get too attached to Gyan aspect and you get distracted and you don't progress towards Krishna consciousness, and or in your practices you are predominantly focused on Gyan and Karma. So that kind of devotional service is called as mixed devotional service or Mishrit Bhakti. Like here it is started, Prabhupada started by mentioning Shuddha Bhakti. Shuddha Bhakti means all this is culminating into pure devotional service. This may not necessarily happen immediately. For all of us also, it's so much mixed. So many other desires are there, right? Like anya bhilashita shunyam, that takes time. And then even in that, even if we have some spiritual desires or some transcendental desire, transcendentalists can include those who are jnanis also. They are also in the path. They are also in the journey. But if our devotion service is mixed with such attachments to Gyan and Karma, then that can also be an obstacle in devotion service, because Gyan Yoga is not necessarily a perfection, it is a process. And ultimate perfection is pure devotional service. So when we are practicing Bhakti Yoga in pure devotional service, that is the perfection. Until the time we have not achieved that, whatever bhakti we are doing, or there is Gyan or Karma, that all is mixed devotional service or Mishrit Bhakti. Does it make sense?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you. Thank you, Mataji, Natasha Mataji. Thank you so much.
Thank you for nice question. And thank you, Natasha Mataji, for explaining so nicely.
Prabhuji, can I
Yes.
add one more thing?
Yes, Mataji.
So it's on the same lines, just like you said, but just since we did this in one of the previous shlokas from NOI, and I actually read about Niyamagraha. So so like Prabhuji was saying, so imagine this is a ladder and Bhakti Yoga is the topmost rung of the ladder. The bottom rungs are, let's say, Karm Yoga, Gyan Yoga, other things, Karm Kand. And like Prabhu was saying, these are all processes. So you have to keep climbing from one rung to another to reach the highest level of Bhakti Yoga. Now, if somebody is very attached, so if you are a Karm Yogi, you're supposed to advance to the next step. If somebody is very attached to Karm, he will not be advanced to the next step. So he keeps his foot on the bottom rung while trying to climb up. That's not possible. So as you keep climbing up, in Niyamagraha, it says that one should give up the attachments of the previous level. So even a Gyan Yogi, in order to advance to Bhakti, he needs to give up the attachment to the Gyan Yoga. So yes, Gyan Yoga can connect you, but the way it will connect is that it will help you in better understanding so you can get to Bhakti. So again, that process where somebody just stays attached to their previous level of understanding and does not and is that's why they're not able to advance, is called Niyamagraha. So it's just part of the process. It's not the goal. The goal is Shuddh Bhakti. I just wanted to add that, Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji. You gave nice example, nice explanation. And I remember you mentioning this during the Niyamagraha also. Great. Okay, so we'll keep going forward. We'll read forward. Okay, so we'll do this. No one. Who wants to read this? Any volunteer?
Prabhuji, I see.
Yes,
Go
please.
on. Neelam aunty, please.
Thank you. No one should criticize the bodily defects of a pure devotee. If there are such defects, they should be overlooked. What should be taken into account is the spiritual master's main business, which is devotional service, pure service to the Supreme Lord. as stated in Bhagavad Gita 9.30, Apichet Suduracharo Bhajate Mam Ananya Bhag Sadhur Evaso Saman Mantavyah Samyag Vyasito Hi Saha. Even if a devotee sometimes seems to engage in abominable activities, he should be considered a sadhu, a saintly person, because his actual identity is that if one engaged in the loving service of the Lord. In other words, he is not to be considered an ordinary human being. Should I continue?
Sure, Auntie.
Even though a pure devotee may not be born in a Brahmin or Goswami family, if he is engaged in the service of the Lord, he should not be neglected. In actuality, there cannot be a family of Goswamis based on material considerations, caste, or heredity. The Goswami title is actually the monopoly of the pure devotees. Thus, we speak of the 6 Goswamis headed by Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami. Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami had practically become Mohammedans and had therefore changed their names to Dabir Khasa and Sakar Malik. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself made them Goswamis. Therefore, the Goswami title is not hereditary. The word Goswami refers to one who can control his senses, who is a master of the senses. A devotee is not controlled by the senses, but is the controller of the senses. Consequently, he should be called Swami or Goswami, even though he may not be born in a Goswami family. According to this formula, the Goswamis who are descendants of Sri Nityananda Prabhu and Sri Advait Prabhu are certainly devotees, but devotees coming from other families should not be discriminated against. Indeed, whether the devotees come from a family of previous acharyas or from an ordinary family, they should be treated equally. One should not think, oh, here is an American Goswami, and discriminate against him. Nor should he think, here is a Nityanand Vansh Goswami. There is an undercurrent of protest against our awarding the title Goswami to the American Vaishnavas of the Krishna conscious movement. Sometimes people flatly tell the American devotees that their sannyasa or title of Goswami is not bona fide. However, according to the statements of Srila Rupa Goswami in this verse, an American Goswami and a Goswami in a family of acharyas are non-different. Do you want me to continue?
Yes, Auntie, we can read one more, this last paragraph, then we'll discuss.
On the other hand, a devotee who has attained the title of Goswami but is not born of a Brahman father or of a Goswami in the family of Nityanand or Advait Prabhu should not be artificially puffed up by thinking that he has become a Goswami. He should always remember that as soon as he becomes materially puffed up, he immediately falls down. This Krishna consciousness movement is a transcendental service, and there is no room for jealousy. This movement is meant for the Paramhansas who are completely free from all jealousy. Paramam Nirmat Saranam. One should not be jealous whether he is born in a family of Goswamis or has the title of Goswami awarded to him. As soon as anyone becomes envious, he falls from the platform of Paramhansa.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So I think it's very simple and very important, which points which Prabhupada mentioned here in these particular paragraphs, right? Prabhupada starts by quoting the famous verse from the 9.39th chapter, 30th shloka. Api chet suduracharo bhajte mamananyabhak sadhurev samantavya samyak vyavasto hisa. That even if somebody commits this most abominable of activity, but if is a devotee, then he should be considered sadhu, saintly person, right? And the other shloka 9.31, here not written here, but it's Shipram bhavati dharmatma shashvat shantim nigacchati kaunteya pratiyanihi name bhakta pranashyati. That he becomes righteous because he's on the right path and declare this boldly, my devotee never perish. So this Krishna is declaring. So Krishna is very protective of his devotee and even wants us to consider such a devotee sadhu, even if he has committed some abominable activity. Even not some, but actually it says suduracharo, most abominable activity. That is what Krishna is saying. Krishna is very strongly defending his devotees. So we should be very careful. We should think we are not devotee, other person who are engaged are devotees. So we should be very careful dealing with devotees. And then there's no question of criticizing or finding faults in devotees, even on bodily basis or any other basis. Prabhupada here beautifully mentions how different people may get such mentality that, oh, he's an American Goswami or whatever. But Goswami means he's a master of senses. So whatever background, caste, creed, religion he might have had from, but now he's a controller of senses. He's following the Vedic principles and he's engaged in service of Krishna. So that person should be called Goswami or Maharaj also. Maharaj means controller. Controller. So either it could be a king who's controlling the praja and the kingdom, or the other Maharaj is controller of the senses. In fact, the Maharaj who is controlling the senses is actually even superior than the Maharaj who's called controlling the kingdom. So therefore, sannyasis are called as Swamis, Goswami, Maharaj. These are the words we use to address them. And it is not on family lineage. Sometimes you go to Vrindavan and other places, you'll see there are descendants of certain great personalities like Nityananda Prabhu and Advaita Acharya. Their family descendants, some of them may actually say that no, it is only Nityananda Vamsha who can be the Goswamis or who can give initiation. So such things may come, people may say such things, but that is wrong. You can't discriminate based upon any family or anything. It is only by qualities. And Prabhupada is warning those people who are getting this title of Goswami, how much careful they must be that they should not artificially get puffed up or anything. So therefore they should be very, very careful, completely free from jealousy or enviousness. Paramam nirmatsaranam. They should be nirmatsara, without any envy. So this is what Prabhupada is mentioning here. Of course, in this
Can I
shloka.
ask a question here? Sorry, Hare Krishna.
Yes,
Can I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
In this shloka of 9.30, it is mentioned that those who have done some abominable activities, but they were in Krishna consciousness, they should still be considered a sadhu. But then there are people who have been into Krishna consciousness and they have fallen down and they have been removed from ISKCON. How come?
So this is very clear. So this is for us to understand how to see these people, right? So even if one commits most abominable person, if he is engaged in devotional service, he should be considered saintly. So what is the problem? We can consider saintly, but we don't necessarily have to associate, and it's the so this is for us, for a normal person. Now when you come to the platform of taking a role of management in a in an institution like ISKCON, then there are certain rules and regulations and training which you have to go through, right? So for them, they can decide based upon what qualities and what how to manage such institution. But we must consider such people saintly. Whoever have served Krishna ever, such person should be considered saintly. Now, if there is something very questionable in their attitude, character, or behavior, we don't necessarily have to associate with those people. We can respect them, we can care for them, love them from a distance, maybe give some, prasadam to them or whatever. But we don't have to associate with such people who are having questionable situation. On the other hand, sometimes even great personalities, people will try to pull them down and spread so many rumors, right? And if we start taking those rumors seriously and start actually pointing fingers towards them, then we will actually land up doing offenses. So we should be very, very careful. Give benefit of doubt to others, and if somebody authorities they have make already made some decision about some particular person, that's okay and not a big deal. Of course, until and unless we are directly connected to the person. If we are directly connected to the person and that person is having such questionable behavior, then we have to reach out to some other person who is in better and more stable standing in devotional service, and should start associating with those people. But there is no harm in respecting somebody who has served Krishna in the past, and now for some reason they are having a fall down or some questionable behavior. Does it make sense, Matsui? I cannot hear. Anybody else would like to add anything to
Yes,
this?
thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else would like to add anything to this question? Actually, generally the question which comes in this shloka is, how can this be possible that somebody is in Krishna consciousness and he is doing a most suduracharo? Like either he is not doing suduracharo if he is in Krishna consciousness, or if he is uh, doing suduracharo, that means he is not in Krishna consciousness. So generally this question comes for the shloka, that why is Krishna saying? But actually the idea is same. The idea is that even if somebody commits that, Krishna is so protective that Krishna is going to take care of that person, and we should not blaspheme and get into a situation where we are committing offenses. Krishna is warning so much against Vaishnav aparad, against judging others, against having any wrong thoughts or a wrong idea. Then of course the other thing here is Shipram Bhavati Dharmata Shashvat Shantim Nikachiti Kontiya Vadyani Name Bhakta Pranishade. So he quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting peace. So even if he did something most abominable, he'll quickly become righteous. Why? Because he is here in 930. Last line Krishna is saying he should be considered saintly because he's properly situated in his determination. So if somebody is having mistakes, fall down, or some wrong activity, but he's determined to serve Krishna, determined to continue in devotional service, such person, Krishna will take care. He'll quickly become righteous. Okay, so I hope that makes some sense.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to add anything? See the next thing here in the translation, I'll read again. Being situated in his original Krishna conscious position, a pure devotee does not identify with the body. Such a devotee should not be seen from a materialistic point of view. One should overlook a devotee's having born in low family, a body with a bad complexion, a deformed body or a disease or infirm body. Example comes when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met Vasudeva Datta, or when he met Sanatan Goswami. Sanatan Goswami's body was full of so much diseases, rash and stuff. Vasudev Ghosh was having, Vasudev Datta was having leprosy, if I remember correctly. Yeah. So those personalities, Krishna, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was embracing their bodies, and he was glorifying them. And even somebody who has body limitations or complexion, racism or anything, we don't have any such problem of racism. Why? Because we are very clear we are not this body, we are spirit soul. So therefore such problems never arise in Krishna consciousness. So that is the beauty of Bhagavad Gita. So he is saying, according to the ordinary vision, such imperfections may seem prominent in the body of pure devotee. So sometimes we may these things may even become very prominent. But a pure devotee's body, Prabhupada says, is spiritualized, totally spiritual. It is not material. So therefore, because it's a spiritual body, then it is very sacred. Especially the example of sannyasis, those who are exalted devotees, their body is considered pure spiritual because they're always meditating on how to serve Krishna the best. So just like an iron rod stays in fire, and after some time it becomes just like fire, as hot as fire. If you don't believe it, just touch it. You will have the same effect which you will have after touching fire. So that is how the body transforms from material to spiritual actually. And it is not polluted. And here the example is given about the Ganges. How Ganges can appear sometimes muddy or bad or anything. Materially, it may be appearing that way, but actually the holy waters, they are very, very pure spiritually. And this is true for any of the sacred rivers or water banks. They may appear to be dirty or muddy or polluted, but actually spiritual potency is still there. So we should be very careful not to misunderstand. It is just a little cover which is placed to keep non-devotees away and to screen and filter those who are spiritually advanced. And those people, they come and they take advantage of such sacred, pure spiritual waters, and they get a lot of spiritual advancement. Okay, so it's 9 o'clock. I'll stop here. Anybody would like to add anything? Questions, comments, any points, any realizations, reflections? So should we conclude today? Landed?
Yes,
Prabhuji,
Prabhuji.
thank you.
Thank you,
Okay.
Prabhuji.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining. We'll join tomorrow morning for the japa. Vancha kalpatarubhesha kripa sthānam pāvanebhyo vaishnavyo namo namaha.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Krishna